Protesters and security forces in Bahrain are still clashing, but this time there's a new arena. Formula One racing is in town, and there are those who say it shouldn't be, not while tensions are still so high. But do protests, or indeed the race, make any difference? What exactly is everyone trying to prove? The Grand Prix and the politics. This is Inside Story. Hello everyone, I'm Kamal Santamaria. You know the old phrase, sports and politics don't mix. Well, there's a classic case of that going on in Bahrain right now. After 3 races of the 2012 season, Formula One motor racing has reached the Gulf state and driven right into a huge controversy. Anti-government protesters, who remember have been protesting for over a year now, have promised 3 days of rage to coincide with the event, but officials say the race will go ahead. Here's the issue though. What does it all achieve? It attracts attention, yes, but does targeting sport make a difference to what is essentially a political situation? Our discussion after this report from Gerald Tan.
Anger over the Grand Prix. Down with the regime, they chant ahead of the Formula One race. The event is set to return to Bahrain's tracks for the first time since unrest began last February. These protesters say the racing championship planned for Sunday will only fuel the ongoing human rights crisis.
We were not against Formula One. We don't have any personal thing against them. Our problem that repressive regime, dictators, killers, they should not be awarded. And this sport, known to be the ruling family sport.
But organizers are keen for the race to go ahead.
If the media is really that conscious about human rights, get on a plane tomorrow, 7 a.m., an hour and a half to Syria, go see the reality there, come back for dinner here. Why are we worried here about a couple of thousand or a couple of hundred who go out and protest and then go home?
Demonstrations during the Arab Spring and the ensuing crackdown forced the cancellation of the F1 circuit in Bahrain last year. Concerned about security, many of the teams and members of international media have been reluctant to return. And it's these very scenes that threaten the government's efforts to project stability. Posted on the internet, they appear to show demonstrators in skirmishes with security forces. We cannot verify these pictures, though they appear consistent with reports from the capital city Manama on Wednesday. According to activists, dozens of people have been arrested for participating in protests, a claim the government denies.
No person will be arrested for merely protesting. Their demonstrations have been ongoing this week, and there will be more to go, so long as they follow the proper procedure and they don't infringe upon anybody else's rights. Those will be fine.
Reports of violence are emerging from Bahrain on a near-daily basis. Protesters from the Shia majority want to see an end to the ruling Sunni monarchy. 14 months after their uprising began, those calls appear to be growing louder. Gerald Tan, Al Jazeera.
So, is Bahrain safe, right and ready for Formula One? And what are both sides trying to prove? To help us answer these questions, we have our 3 guests today. On the phone from Manama's Jamal Fakhro, who is the first Deputy Chairman of the Shura Council. This is the upper house of the National Assembly in Bahrain. And then 2 guests from London. First of all, Saeed al-Shehabi, who is the leader of the Bahrain Freedom Movement. And also sports journalist and author Mahir Bose joining us from there. Gentlemen, thank you all for your time. Thank you for joining us for Inside Story. Go to the phones if I can, first of all. Jamal Fakhro on the line from Manama. Do you agree with me, or concede even, that this cannot be a normal sporting event, that barely anyone is talking about the racing and the drivers and the Formula One? They're talking all about the controversy and the protests and whether this should go ahead or not.
Well, it is just unfortunate that the media, it seems, have no subject these days other than talking about Formula One in Bahrain. Now, let me tell you one thing, that today is the first day of the race. It went extremely well. We had all the teams participating in the pre-race warm-up. They had the first session in the morning and the second session in the afternoon. So it is going well. This is, I think we need to agree that Formula One is a sport, and and we need to deal with it as a sport only. We should not link it with politics or any other issue. Last week in Bahrain, or this Saturday in Bahrain, we had a large golf tournament where we had a couple of major golf players. Colin Montgomery was here with 5 pros and maybe 8 sports leaders. Where in Bahrain, we had a fantastic tournament in Bahrain, and nothing had happened, and nobody spoke about it. It is unfortunate that our friends in the opposition are trying to make a fuss of the Formula One in Bahrain.
What about the risk, though, sir? You are holding an event which you've just detailed there, and that it's gone well so far on the first day of practice, but it's not bringing any good attention. You've told us about that, but broadly speaking, this is not doing Bahrain any favours at the moment.
Well, maybe it could be in your view or others' view, but we believe it is doing a great favour for us. First of all, we are back on the timetable of the Formula One. We were moved. We were out of it last year for the issues we had last year. This year we are much more in a much more better position, and the FIA have accepted us to come back. So what is wrong with that? Secondly, the Formula One, whether we like it or not, bring business into Bahrain, employ approximately 700 Bahrainis on temp jobs for the coming 2-3 weeks. So it is very important for the country. We don't want to be seen outside the timetable and the agenda of Formula One. And therefore, we believe we are capable, the government is capable of handling security. And so far, as I said, today went extremely well with no issues. And hopefully tomorrow and after tomorrow we'll go in the same route.
Okay, then let's get some responses here. Saeed al-Shehabi joining us from London. Your response to what you've heard there.
Thank you very much. My friend Jamal said that last week he had some golf tournament. At the time he was enjoying it. Our people were taking or attending the funeral of Ahmed Ismail, who had been about 10 days or 2 weeks ago, he had been shot dead by live bullets by the police. So, of course, Bahrain society is two societies. One where Jamal and his friends live in a cocoon nest, and the others, the majority, most of the people, both Shias and Sunnis, live in their own world, in a different world. A world of poverty, a world of deprivation, a world of torture, a world of imprisonment. Now, as for the F1, I think Jamal Fakhro doesn't want to listen to the world, who are not interested in really just going after car racing when there are other more important issues at stake,
but
when the people are in jail.
Mr. Said, what about that point that he does make, that it is a sporting event and doesn't have anything to do with political or any other situation? It is a sporting event. Why go after it?
First of all, sports have always been part of politics. This is why they were boycotting the apartheid in South Africa. The rugby tour were cancelled several times in the 80s. Also in 1959, for example, when the F1 was racing here in Twickenham in London, the motto and the slogan was no to normal sports in abnormal situation, in an abnormal situation. So you cannot have normal sports where the situation is abnormal. So you cannot distinguish or separate both sports and politics. This is one point. The other point is also, if it was so much separated, if the two are separate, why does the regime insist on holding it? The Saudis have paid enormously to Mr. Ecclestone. He told us, he said, Mr. Ecclestone said, I received my money, I can go ahead with it or I cancel it. That was about 2 months ago. He said, I received the money. So he has received the money. And the idea that it brings business to Bahrain is rubbish. It does not bring any business.
Okay,
Nobody goes to Bahrain today.
Let me pick up on that point then about business in Bahrain, and I'm going to bring Mihir Bose into the conversation in a moment after we look at some reasons why the Bahraini government might be so keen to hold this event, and then I'm afraid the word we are using, Mr. Saeed, is money. Yes, there are plenty of other words, but most of them do come back to money. This is a 3-day event. It is televised worldwide. It's a huge money spinner for both the tourism sector and the sponsors. Have a look at these numbers. Tourism officials in Bahrain say the 2010 event, this was the last time the Grand Prix was there, 100,000 visitors came, $500 million in revenue were made. 90 million of that came from 103 brand names posted around the circuit, all the official sponsors as well. Last year's event, it was cancelled. Apparently that lost the kingdom some $400 million in tourism losses, bringing it back this year, expected to generate up to 500 million. Mihir Bose, let me bring you in here. It is all about money, isn't it? Simple as that.
Well, yes, it is about money, but let me come back to this question about sport and politics. Let's be very clear. The way modern sport is developed, it has a moral dimension. Why, for instance, did Bernie Ecclestone, the rights holder, he's been described as the master chef for Formula One. Why has he taken it to countries which has no great history of Formula One, where it has gone to develop? Why? Because he's told them, like in Bahrain, like in other countries, that you can join the Premiership of Nations. And by holding the sporting event, Bahrain elevates itself. It reaches a higher plane. So there is a moral dimension to this sport. And the question here is the Bahrain government, and let's face it, the Crown Prince has always been a great advocate of sport. He spent a lot of money. You've given the figures there about the business interest and what it brings in. But the question then is, if there is another dimension, is the Bahrain government using the sport to show to the world that it's a normal country? And therefore, if you go there and there is suppression of human rights going on, as one of your speakers said, then isn't Formula One endorsing those suppression of human rights? Isn't Formula One, if you like, colluding with the Bahrainian government? And should any sport do that? That's the question to be raised.
Mihir, let me come back to you in a second. I think we should put your question to Jamal Fakhra, seeing he is in the Jury Council in Bahrain. The exact words there, Mr. Jamal, were, is the government using the sport to show the world that it's a normal country? What do you say?
I think there was a statement by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince recently. He said, guys, we are doing this sport and not linking it with politics. And therefore there is a statement from the third top person in the country saying that there is no link. We are not using the sport to pass any message about what's going on in the country. So whoever believes that we are doing this in Bahrain, just to give a picture that Bahrain is a quiet and so on, I think he is mistaken. As I said, we are doing this because we have a commitment with F1. We want to be on the program and on the timetable, and we don't want to lose the economical benefit that you have clearly said. Let me go back to Dr. Shehabi, if you allow me.
Sure.
What he said. I mean, he gave, as usual, some wrong information. Ahmed Ismail, he died. He was not killed by the police. He knows that, and the official statement covered that.
He wasn't killed by bullets?
No, he was not killed by the police. It was clearly agreed. It was not killed by police, and you know that, Mr. Shehabi.
Sorry, he was killed by whom?
The second point I'm trying to say here, the second point is that the money which was paid to Bernie, these are the fees for running Formula One in Bahrain, and these are the sort of fees which are paid by every single country that hosts Formula One. So we are not paying money to bribe anybody. We are not paying money to keep anybody quiet or to support us. This is fees. We have to pay it because we have signed a contract with these guys. The other thing is that Saeed brought some example of the 1965 and 1980. I mean, just last week, Formula One was run in China. You tell me, does China have a better human rights than other countries? Let me quote for you one thing which was said by Bernie a few years ago. He said, if a human right was the criteria for Formula One races, then we would have it only in Belgium and Switzerland. This is Bernie's words in an article which was written by Meher in 2011.
Okay, this is a fair point. This is a fair point, Jamal Fakhra. And let me put it quickly to Saeed al-Shehabi and then to Mihir Bose. Mr. Saeed, first of all, the fact that, yes, there has been and is, you can argue, an acute situation in Bahrain, and there has been for the last 12 months. However, the point Jamal makes is that you could look at any number of countries and question why they should be holding a Formula One event or indeed any sporting event.
First of all, as he mentioned about Ahmed Ismail was killed by bullets. Okay, maybe they were the killers were did not have police uniform, but who did kill him? This is number one. Number two, as for it is good that Mr. Jamal Fakhro has agreed that human rights were not part of it, so he does not deny that human rights are abused in Bahrain, and that's why Bernie Ecclestone did not really take that into consideration, and he went ahead with the race, although not paying attention to human rights. And if the human rights considerations are to be taken, then the F1 would not be held except in Belgium and Holland or wherever. Well, I think this is wrong. I mean, even if that is the case, then Formula One must not be held unless it takes into account the political situation of the country and whether it is confirming and endorsing policies or not. And we know that the Al Khalifa ruling family in Bahrain has been pushing a lot and using the Saudi money in order to get the Formula One back, in order to show to the world, and this is the agreement of everybody who looks at the situation, that Bahrain has come back to normal circumstances, although we still have killing, although we still have hundreds of prisoners, although only in the past, because of Formula One, in the past week alone, we had more than 100 people arrested just to prevent any disturbance taking place during the race. So whether it is linked to human rights or not, we know that in the case of Bahrain, F1 has caused more misery, more human rights abuses since it was announced that it is going back to Bahrain. So I believe
I'd like to bring you back. Sorry, Mr. Said, I'd like to bring Mihir Bose back, and he is waiting patiently there in London as well. And you know, there are so many things we can talk about with this story. We should probably talk about the sport as well. Now, viewers in Belgium and Switzerland will be rubbing their hands together and thinking, great, we could get a Grand Prix here because we look great compared to everyone else. I mean, is this a fair argument that you could look at any country?
No, I think, well, you see, let's face the facts that there are lots of deplorable regimes around the world. There's no question about that. And it can't be sport's mission to clean up the world and have free democracy all over the place. But the point is, it would be nice if it could. But the point is, must sports compromise its moral standing? Now, for instance, would you have had Formula One when the Tiananmen Square massacres were taking place in China? That is the question. China, of course, is not a democratic country. It's run in a certain way. But the situation in China is not quite comparable to the situation in Bahrain at this point in time. And the question the sport has to ask, yes, you realize, you emphasize, and I quite agree with you, sport is big business, sport makes money, Formula One goes to countries where it can make money, which is fair enough. But sport also claims a moral dimension. Sport also claims that it is just more than mere athletic activity or mere people whizzing around a circuit in a car. That sport makes you a better person. It elevates you. It unites people. It brings people together. It gives you a purpose in life. Now, if you have it in a country like Bahrain with the problems it has, where there is suppression of human rights, if there is suppression of human rights, then how can sport achieve that purpose? Isn't it violating the principles of sport? That is the question to be asked.
Dare I ask, Mihir, how the drivers and the teams feel about all of this? You know, they're the ones who are actually there to win races, to get points for the championship. Do their feelings, do their opinions matter in any of this?
Well, they do matter, and it's very interesting. Apart from a couple of drivers who've expressed opinions, most of them have said nothing, because sport has become such big business. They realize that for a cancellation of the sport means a loss of revenue, which would affect them. So if you like, that moral dimension of sport, which is what created modern sport, has been lost and is in danger of being lost because the sporting spirit, if you like, is being forgotten. Why sport is there? If sport is just physical activity, then sport really reduces itself, goes down to a lower level.
So basically,
and many of the drivers, while privately they might say things, publicly are very reluctant to say anything.
I was about to say that basically no one's willing to take a stand because they know they are part of something bigger.
Absolutely, and of course their pay packet would be affected.
Jamal Fakhro, let me bring you back in on the phone from Manama. Do you, perhaps not you personally, but do you know of any comments from officials, from team officials, from drivers about their concerns about this race, or have they all kept quiet to you as well?
I think there was some statement by a couple of drivers who clearly said they don't want to link politics with the sports, and they are repeatedly saying that they are coming here to Bahrain to be part of Formula One as a sport and nothing to do with politics. Now, I want to say one thing to comment on Mihir's comment earlier, and to Dr. Said. I mean, the whole idea, do these guys, do Mihir and Dr. Said want us to stop doing any activity in Bahrain until we sort our political issue? Should we close our cinemas? Should we stop people from getting married? Should we stop people from having fun? Should we stop the spring of cultural activities? Last week we have Bocelli in Bahrain, and we had so many international singers in Bahrain. Nobody spoke about them. Should we stop all the culture? I mean, Bahrain this year as the capital, as the culture of the Arab capital of the Arab culture countries. We are having every single day a cultural event over the coming 365 days. Should we stop that because we have got political parties who are not willing to sit on the table to discuss, who are really being pushed by Saeed and his team to violate the laws? I mean, we should.
Well, let's hear from Mr. Saeed then. Let's hear from him.
Sorry, people should be careful. We don't want to stop this happening in Bahrain, our business, our life, simply because we have got Saeed and his teams who don't want to bring rest and security and stability to this country.
Mr. Saeed al-Shehabi, your response?
Well, I don't know who is violating the law. Is it the people who go in the streets, or those who break into the 24-hour stores, Jawaz stores, only on the 10th of this month, in the presence of the police, looting, destroying, creating mayhem in a store officially sanctioned by the police? It is there on the video, clear, everybody has seen it. Who is violating the law? The people who have committed systematic torture, according to the Bisuni report, or the people who have gone to demand that they be treated as citizens and not to be treated as slaves and as tools and not to be tortured. I don't know who is violating the law. The people who are going on hunger strike for not eating, using passive resistance and passive opposition, or those who are elevating and torturing people, such as the king's son, Nasser, who had himself with his own hands abused and tortured both Mirza al-Mahrous and Muhammad Habib al-Muqdad in their own testimonies, written and authenticated testimonies. So I don't know what law is Jamal Fakhro talking about, which law which is being violated. Is it the human rights? Is it the systematic killing in accordance to Bisuni, or those poor people?
You know that your people have been burning Bahrain every night, every day by cocktail Molotov, have been throwing cocktail Molotov on civilians, on houses, and on police. The role of the police is to protect the people, and your guys, unfortunately, are throwing cocktail Molotov on.
Okay, let me interrupt. Hold on, gentlemen, sorry.
You names of violators.
Gentlemen, let me interrupt because I've only got about 30 seconds. I've only got 30 seconds left on this program. I want to leave the last word to Mihir Bose, because as you listen to those two gentlemen talk, Mihir, it's not about sport anymore, is it?
No, it is not about sport, and it's for the Bahrainian people to solve their problems. But the question is, does sport become a colluder in it? Does sport become part of that problem? And that is where sport has to take. I mean, I've only got interested in the Bahrain situation because I follow sport, I follow Formula One, and therefore millions around the world who are not. I mean, you know, one wishes Bahrain well, and one hopes there can be a peaceful solution to the problems there. But that's for the Bahrainian people. The question for sport is, and for Formula One. It's a major sport around the world. By going to Bahrain, is it colluding in what is happening in Bahrain, and therefore, if you like, preventing a solution from emerging rather than the other way around? And that is the question that sport has to answer. And if it does that, then sport is losing its moral dimension. And that if sport does that, then then there is nothing about sport, because sport is more than just physical activity.
Mahir Bose, thank you for those thoughts. Also, thank you to Saeed al-Shehabi, who joined us from London, and on the line from Manama was Jamal Fakro. Gentlemen, thank you. To you, our viewers, thank you for joining us for Inside Story. Send us your comments and your feedback, won't you? InsideStory@aljazeera.net is our email address. I'm Kamal Santamaria from the whole team. Thanks for joining us.